Once upon a time, in a land not so far away, there was this room, and in it lived this princess, fair and beautiful. The room knew her, for they were best friends. Long hours they would spend in conversation together, talking about the most various of things. When she would leave, the room would miss her, but she knew her lady would always come back to her and speak about what was happening in the kingdom of her life. There was nothing her lady would not tell her, and this was the normal order of things. But one day, the room heard a sound that wasn't any like of the sounds that would normally come from a lady. This was different to the cries that would echo her chambers through the night, different to the mellow of confusion and distress and anguish. Those garments a lady would normally be found wearing of recent years. No, this was the cry to God, someone the room did not know. Curious to understand what was happening and why the sudden change that somehow had to happen overnight in of a lady's kingdom, the room began an investigation. It was difficult to understand what was happening, and the more the room listened in, the more the room seemed to misunderstand. Her investigation was spanned over a couple of weeks, at times some even months, and as long as the investigation lasted, the more the prayers of a lady intensified. Years passed, and still the room could not crack the code on the investigation. Who exactly was this individual a lady was waiting for, that somehow always found himself on the lips of a lady? And why has the cries of pain and suffering suddenly stopped? It really made no sense to the room. And then, on one off weekend, a lady was gone. The room searched high and low for a lady, but there was no trace of her, only some odd message of a conference. According to the normal order of things, a lady should have been back by now. Back that night, in fact, and it's been 2 days already. Where exactly has the lady gone? The room immediately filed for a missing persons report, and when that surprisingly didn't work, the room did the unthinkable. She contacted God. The room was tired and could no longer continue to be left in suspense. Where exactly has the lady gone? This was a final attempt to get to the bottom of all of this change, and this was what she was going to do. She knew she would not get into contact with him. She wasn't stupid. Her lady was spending 2 years praying to him, and not once did she hear God answer her back. But it was worth a shot. Dear Heavenly Father, the room started. But before she could even come to breath the next part of the prayer, Good afternoon, room, God replied out of nowhere. I understand you have been looking for your Duchess. Not to worry. She is perfectly safe in my wall. I am busy answering her prayers for as we speak. Please calm down. Everything is going to be alright. You're startling and perplexed at a baby. That's probably what the room could have attested to feel. But right then, that baby did not exist. The room was simply speechless. It took her a while, and although she could not come to terms to utter any form of spoken word, she could however think, and thought to herself she did. Holding back nothing, she questioned him in her heart. Oh, now he answers. Where were you when my lady cried out to you? It was like God heard her every thought. It was like nothing could be hidden from him. Word for word, God answered her questions. And you think she was speechless before? It was like God was on a mission to make the room understand what was and is about to happen. And then, just as God finished speaking, the room remembered everything. I remember someone coming into my lady's chamber a few years ago, a complete stranger. At first, I didn't think too much of it, until my lady ran down the staircase to get my lady's father. It would have made more sense to report him being illegally in my lady's chamber, but that did not seem to be the case. I thought it to be very strange. Never did my lady ever do something like that before. What was happening, I thought. And then, before I could even understand what was happening, he was speaking about God, the guy in the pictures. He was in my lady's father's arms, and he was a part of the family. And I thought to myself, just like that? But then, he had to leave. His brother came to fetch him, and my lady and her lover had to part ways. I never seen me lady so sad before. And then I forgot. What exactly happened, God? How could I have forgotten? God smiled at the room. I was happy to see that the room was finally starting to understand, especially after all this time. And he explained to her everything. Time was coming to an end, and I needed all my armies to fight in the wars of the last days. He was a knight in my ranks, the man that was in your lady's chambers, and I needed him to lead some of my squadrons in battle. So I could not simply exempt him. I wished for him to have met her earlier. I really did. To give him at least one day with her. I knew he would maximize his time with her if I had allowed him to. But when we were about to enter eternity, I saw his heart. I saw how restless he was, and because I've always wanted the best for him, I decided to do just that, to allow him that one day. And for that, I had to change time itself, rewind everything for everyone, just so that the knight may be reunited with his princess. And the reason you forgot, Room, was because that's the drawback of meddling with time. Everyone forgot, including the princess. But her heart just could not forget. She looked for him in guise that would never meet his knighthood, and she became broken, hence why you heard her cry so often, so much, so often. It carried on for a while, and all the while, as she was crying, the knight was looking for her. He remembered everything but how her face looked, and where she had lived. It was like the dream was the glass slipper he had left of her, and he went through the entire kingdom looking for his Cinderella, through everyone trying to see who could fit the description. You want to understand what is about to happen? This is it. He has found her. It took him 5 years, but he has finally found her. And I'm about to bless them. If you ever had the best interest for your lady at heart, Room, then allow me to meet with her personally during the course of this week. She is about to turn him down, but we must not allow it. We cannot. I'll bring your lady back to you, but you must promise me this one thing. Promise me you will give me entrance to her when it is time, and she'll see soon enough that my knight and his pursuit was my doing all this time. Are you ready, Room? To never hear cries of that nature ever again, cries of pain and of hurt and of torment? Please, cried the Room in reply, for my lady's sake. Then God said, I'll show you what I am about to do. It was 3 days since the Room had saw a lady, and just like God had said, a lady returned to her. The Room was emphatic about the return of a lady, but equally as excited to see what God was about to do with her. And for that week, the Room watched her lady expectantly, waiting for the promise of God to be fulfilled. And not soon after, entered the knight once again. He came to her lady, and in the presence of her father, overcome by love and zeal of his 5-year journey, he grabbed her face and kissed her, unable to wait any longer. And this was what the knight was said to his princess. I met you 5 years ago, and I had to leave. But now that I am with you, I will never let you go. The Room smiled, knowing this was it, what God had foretold. And the knight and his princess lived happily ever after into infinity and beyond. The end.